The profound and wondrous Dharma is rarely encountered, even in 100 million kalpas. Having it to hear, accept, and maintain, may I taste the truth of the Tathagata's words.
Good morning, everyone. This is my first time at the Zoom thing, so I hope everything is in place. I think it is. If you could raise your hand if you can hear me. I'm kind of talking. Okay, thanks. Great. So our speaker today is Edmee. I'm glad everybody's here, and I will just turn it directly over to her.
Thank you very much. So I guess we are all teaching each other today. Good morning. So the title of my, can you hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, so the title of my talk today is, Am I on the right path? Now, I think that we are all stressed out to some extent because we are dealing with a very, very chaotic world right now. Between the pandemic and the wildfires and the floods and the refugee crisis and what's happening in Afghanistan, and the racial disparity, and it can go on and on and on. And sometimes I'm wondering, how could I possibly deal with it without the practice? And at the same time, I experience that the stress of the uncertainty forces me to reflect on what it means for me to be on the right path. In the Song of Awakening, there is a line which says, walking alone, we are all walking the Buddha way together. So walking the Buddha way is walking the Bodhisattva way. Walking alone on the path to me would mean that, for instance, I sit by myself in the morning, and then during the week, I walk with others together on the path because I sit with other people, or right now, we are all walking the Buddha way together. And what is the difference between being on the path or not? So to me, it seems that to be on the path means that I feel more awake, I feel more aware, and also I feel a little bit less fear, so that I can turn to what needs to be done to help, something like that. More willing to be curious rather than to be fearful. And walking alone on the path, so it means I reflect for myself. So what is the Bodhisattva way? What does that mean to help? Because personally, I need to help, otherwise I feel bad. Because I feel that I have everything, so I need to share with other people. We've been discussing for some time at Stone Creek how we could be more, let's say, more obviously engaged in the community, because unlike churches, we're not providing food or shelter to people. And I asked this question once to Pangoshi: how can we, as a Zendo, be more involved in the community? And his answer to me was, Zen is not useful. And in a way, I understand that, Zen should not be commodified in a way. But I find another answer in Thomas Cleary's book, Zen Essence. And he says, Zen Buddhism is particularly strident in its warning against trying to institutionalize the good and the holy, because the sentimental attachments build around these ideas and the hypocrisy that feeds on these attachments. And to me, one way to be really engaged in the community is to choose, and I know that all of you have done that, to choose an activity to help and then bring the practice to it. I don't bring Zen, I bring the practice. And it seems to me that it's more engaging than if, let's say, I would participate in an activity which has been decided without my input from the Zen, from an organization, from an institution. And I feel joy when I help. It makes me feel good. And I also try to watch my motivation, trying not to be holier than thou. So walking alone, I try to constantly watch my motivation and my intention. And I accept that my motivation is not entirely pure. I need some recognition, I need some approval, perhaps I need to be liked. And it decreases my guilt to help, or it appeases my consciousness in a way, my conscience, right? But it's okay. I think that, first of all, it's better to help than not to help. And as long as I'm aware of what I'm doing, then I'm on the path, because after all, that's what we're supposed to do. Also needing to escape once in a while. Sometimes I can't take it, and I need to read a book or have a glass of wine or whatever. But yet, we need to be vigilant and to walk the path together. And a friend of mine sent me a comment written by a Hopi Indian chief by the name of White Eagle, and that's what he says. He says, this moment that humanity is experiencing can be seen as a door or a hole. The decision to fall in the hole or walk through the door is up to you. If you consume the news 24 hours a day with negative energy, constantly nervous, with pessimism, you will fall into the hole. But if you take the opportunity to look at yourself, to rethink life and death, to take care of yourself and others, then you will walk through the portal. So for me, the portal, what he described is the Dharma gates. Take care of your home, take care of your body, connect with your spiritual home. When you take care of yourself, you take care of everyone at the same time. So we can decide, we can make the effort to use the crisis that we are currently all experiencing to walk through the portal, to walk through the Dharma gate as a way to strengthen our practice and to be on the right path. And to me, it's just the effort of continuing and constantly the uncertainty really helps in a way to come back to the present, and realizing the difference between now and what we call the normal life, whatever that means, before the pandemic and all the things that started since then. So I also thought about, okay, so how can I lose the past? How can, be derailed? And I find 3 ways, but we can be very creative about that, and I'm sure that you find other ways yourself. I read a book by Roshi John Halifax, and the name of the book is Standing on the Edge. And as you may know, John Halifax is a well-known Zen teacher, and she has done all kinds of stuff. She has organized civil rights anti-war movement in the 60s. She is a medical anthropologist, and she trained physicians and nurses to communicate with empathy to patients when they face difficult situations. She has helped in the hospice movement and sat at the bed of dying people. She has volunteered in maximum security prison. She has set up clinic in the Himalayas to provide care. And she writes in the book that she remembers her first Zen teacher, Zen master Seung Zan, who casually asked her, she asked me, so that's Joanne Halifax speaking, have been spending my time. So I listed all my recent, quote, good deeds to him. He paused after my recitation and growled, "You are a bad bodhisattva." And she felt that she had been struck by lightning. And to me, it was extremely also striking to know that we can be bad bodhisattvas. And so bad bodhisattva would mean that we lose the path. And one way to lose the path, which is probably the easiest way, is to overdo it. We help to the point of exhaustion. And, if we don't pay attention to our needs, then there won't be anything left to give, right? It is well known that in cases of catastrophe or any tragedy, the natural way of human is to help each other. And we have heard numerous stories of humans' courage and generosity and kindness of people helping. But when the situation goes on and on and on, then exhaustion can begin and set in, and also a sort of callousness instead of the spontaneous kindness that we experienced at the beginning. And I will take an example, the example of healthcare professional right now, because it's so, it's so present in our life. We hear about that all the time because of the pandemic. So in the beginning of the pandemic, doctors and nurses were looked at as heroes, and they were, and they still are, because they were, putting their life at risk, and also the life of their family, treating people on the front line. Now, doctors feel that they're not respected anymore by patients who don't respect restriction, don't get vaccinated, and also by the healthcare system, which are demanding much more with much less resources. Also, sometimes physicians have to work with nurses who are not vaccinated. Now, as you know, nurses and doctors are trained to put their needs aside and just put patients' needs first. And that's what they do. And they go on and they will continue to go on until it's no longer sustainable. And the rate of burnout in physicians has increased tremendously. But even more to the point is that many of them are leaving the profession. And that's really something to really take into consideration. Nurses and doctors are leaving the profession. So overdoing it is probably the easiest way to lose the path. Another way to lose the path is to become pessimistic and to lose hope, to go into the hole. And we become overwhelmed. We start to think that whatever we do, who cares? It doesn't matter. There's so much to do, and it's so futile. We want to, crawl into a bed and put the cover over our head. But maybe it's sort of easy to give up in a way. We just lose the effort into staying on the path. And to me, what helps is to remember the first of the 4 Bodhisattva vows. Being are numberless, I vow to free them. And it is because being are numberless that we take this vow. It is because it is impossible to do that we take the vow. Because we do the best we can, but the result is not up to us. Another way to lose the path is to have false idea about what helping means. We know all the story about fishing, that it's, you can bring fish to people to feed them, but it's probably much better to teach them how to fish. Now, bringing fish is easy. Teaching them how to fish will take a lot of time and effort, right? But that's what we're trying to do. The other way that we can lose the path is to also think that only extremely important tasks, noble tasks are worthy, like working with the homeless, or as John Halifax did in Maximum Security Prison. This very, very noble task. Well, it's true, and of course we should do them, but you see already how it's something that we can sort of brag about, right? Because of the novelty of the task. And they are much more mundane things that we can do every day to stay on the path. Things like calling this friend that we have not been calling for weeks because we don't know what to say, or just smiling to the cashier in the grocery store, or maybe have yet another conversation with someone who doesn't believe in vaccination, all these little things, they add up. And we can use in the same way our imagination to practice random acts of kindness. And this kind of thing, we won't get our ego involved because they're so small. So that's the advantage, compared to the noble task. So those are examples of losing the past, and I would love to have a conversation about that if you would like to do that. And so how do we travel the Buddha way together? How do we help each other to stay on the path? And that's why we have a Sangha, of course, because we can remind each other of the past. But I think that we have to remind ourselves that helping has nothing to do with saving or fixing. Helping is a way of sharing happiness, sharing joy with other people. It has to come from this sense of having too much and we want to share it with other people. And I think the best way is to embody the practice so that when we are with someone, we bring fearlessness, we bring confidence, so that we inspire the other people to do what they want to do. That's helping. So the Sangha helps to stay on the path because we reflect each other, and we walk the path alone. It means that each of us experience Zen practice in our own way, but we walk the Buddha way together because we are all sharing the same aspiration, which is whatever it is, but to see the truth, to stay aware, to continue with this joyful effort to stay on the path. And we remind ourselves, you see, because that's one difficulty with practice that we forget. So when we see each other, when we practice together, we remind each other to remind ourselves to constantly stay on the path. And we also remind ourselves that we're not perfect, and that's okay. That's actually required in a way. So it's going to be a short talk today, and I hope we can have a conversation, and question and answer. But to the path, how can we? What's the way to use the situation of the world right now to stay on the path? And we are forced to do it, whether we like it or not. I mean, there's no other way right now. If we don't do it, we just go into the hole. But then we have also to really refine perhaps our way to wanting to contribute, to help, so that we are very vigilant about what we're doing. So as I say, we can lose the past because when we overdo it, we don't take care of ourselves anymore. And I remember a friend, they were working on renovating their house together in a group of friends, and she just had a recent health event, and she wanted to continue. She wanted to contribute. And one of her friends said, "No, you have to take care of yourself. And if you take care of yourself, you take care of all of us here." So she was saying the same thing that we just said, that if we don't take care of ourselves, we won't have anything to give. We can lose the past again by thinking that we're not good enough, that what we are doing is not enough. Well, that's our ego, we need to remember that we put our best effort into it, and then whatever happens. And also really paying attention to whatever it is that we decide to do, and not think that one thing is better than the other, because there's so much suffering that we have to address it in so many different ways. So so traveling the Buddha way together, I love that line. We as a Sangha, we remind ourselves, we practice together, we do the Zen Fest together, we do activities together, and we help each other by being generous and not judgmental, and welcoming everyone. So I will finish with going back to Chief White Eagle, the last part of what his comments were. He says, "Are you ready to face this crisis? Grab your toolbox and use all the tools at your disposal." We do have tools in our practice, so at least we have that, right, to give other people. He says, "Learn resistance from the example of Indian and African people. We have been and are being exterminated, but we never stop singing, dancing, lighting a fire, and rejoicing. Don't feel guilty for feeling blessed in these troubled times. Being sad or angry does not help at all. Resistance is resistance through joy. Practicing is resistance through joy. You have the right to be strong and positive, and there is no other way to do it than to maintain a beautiful, happy, bright posture. There is no other way to do it than to maintain a beautiful, happy, bright posture. That's Zen posture. That's our practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edmee. We'll let everyone chime in as they feel the urge.
Yes.
Edmee, thank you very much for your talk. Try not to chime in too early. I do volunteer a lot, as you know, and I find that the reason I do is because it gives me a sense of purpose. I'm doing it maybe selfishly because if I don't do these things, I'm just sort of wandering around in a vacuum. I especially when you're not working anymore, you're not taking care of kids, that kind of thing. You got to find a sense of purpose. So I don't know, I do a lot, but am I veering off the path because I'm doing it for a selfish purpose?
What do you think? I not at all. I think, what it is watching what we are doing, and as long as we're aware of what we're doing, that's practice. And we all are looking for meaning in our life, right? So absolutely, I think, what else can we do? That would be, you see, let's say, if you blame yourself or if you judge yourself about the fact that you look for meaning, that's not good. But as long as you know that it's part of what you're doing, and you say, okay, that's my intention, it's part of my intention, it's perfectly fine. And everybody knows that, I think, helping is very pleasant. It makes us feel good. It is selfish. And even the Dalai Lama said, yes, compassion is selfish because it makes you feel good. Well, fine. Let's rejoice.
Thank you for that.
It's a very good question. Yes.
Edmee, I was intrigued by this practice. Can you hear me? Stay show.
Oh, no, I couldn't see. Oh, yeah, now I can see you. I could not see. Sorry.
So I was intrigued by your saying, or quoting, practice is resistance through joy. Could you say more about what you think that means? It's not clear to me.
Well, yeah, I was taking that from Chief White Eagle, and resistance through joy for me means that I am going to make all the effort to not go into the hole and lose hope or become pessimistic. And also that as much as I can, the help I give comes from joy, not from a need for myself, but to my joy that I want to share. And resistance, I like this word in a way because it's very active, and you know, we resist this pushover, this pressure, this news of all over the bad stuff, and so we said, no, I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to pause, and I'm going to decide about what I want to do about that.
Thank you, Edmee, for your talk. I love the idea of joy. Um, I'm wondering if you think it might also be possible to lose the path by erring on the other side and not engaging enough.
Not doing enough? Is that what you said? Sorry.
Yeah. Of coming from like a scarcity mindset and trying to kind of hoard our resources, whatever they may be, emotional or physical or what have you. If there's the middle way, right?
Well, yeah, we are all trying to practice the middle way, and well, I don't know. It depends of what we mean by scarcity. Or I believe that everyone does the best they can, and that's it. So perhaps we have to really pay attention to this way that we tend to perhaps have to quantify things rather than seeing the quality. I don't know if I answered your question. Maybe not, but we're not here to answer questions, right? We're here to bring up questions. So that's why.
No, but thank you, and I also very much appreciated you talking about the hole versus the door. So thank you for sharing. Thank you.
I liked what Thomas had to say about, can you do too little? Can you do too much? And then you said, well, we just do the best we can. And I find it interesting. That's really an interesting thing to say, because how do you determine for yourself what's the best you can do? I mean, I can see how that would be really sort of a vague, you could sort of get lost in that. What's the best we can do?
I don't know. I don't know. I think, I don't know, what Thomas' question brought to me, let's say, if someone, let's take the example of someone who experienced a lot of trauma in their life, right? Well, maybe they can't give that much because they are too wounded, right? But they can still do a little bit, and for them, that's enough. How do we know how much is enough or not, or the way? I think that's a constant exploration. Because also maybe at some time in your life you can do, you can practice in a different way, and then it evolves, it changes. It's never set. It's never set. Never set. Yeah.
I think one could, it's just easy to get paralyzed and stuck in the question, of too little, and too much. We have a new asylum family from Honduras living in Sebastopol, and I was reaching out to some friends for contributions, and so then what starts going through my mind is, how is this family more important than the family that's sitting outside of Pacific Market, and asking for money, or just a myriad of people in need, and it's endless. And so how can I, how do we decide, why do we make this gesture, not that gesture, or make choices? I realized in myself, I could just get completely, I could go into that hole and be very impotent and very unable to do anything out of that indecision or that questioning. Right. So, so at some point, one takes a step and then keeps trying to be aware of, widen your, my horizon, and recognize all the need, but realize I can't, do something about all of it. And yeah, and so a gesture can matter.
Right. Yes, that's how I like to look at it. One person at a time. And that's really the best way to me. And when we say watching, it's not the questioning whether we should do this or that. It's when we have decided to do this, right? We watch our motivation and also watch, our own needs to take care of ourselves, so that we can go on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Marie?
Edmee, I think there's some value. I mean, you can give money to somebody who's standing outside of Pacific Market, but also there's some value in working in concert. And, either with Stone Creek or the city itself, there are ways, and there are different ways. There's the whole city, and there's various churches within the city, and there's various groups within the city that attempt to help where people are really suffering, and identify the different little pockets of suffering throughout. And some are also at the county level. So there's, and some of those agencies need to be aware. They do outreach, but they also need some way of being aware of where the suffering is in the midst of us. So I think it's really important to, as an individual, connect with some form of group resources. It could be Stone Creek, it could be the city, it could be neighborhood foundation. I mean, it could be a variety of different things. And then approach that little pocket, you know, and invariably it will connect, you know, to various other sufferings and groups that are working together. But it's good to know. It's good to know and to choose how to work in concert with other people on the issues. And I am, and it's right there at the core of this this Buddhism, you know, and so it's I don't have too much else to say, but I really appreciate you bringing up the issue and letting us as a Sangha and as individuals think about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, I got one more thing to say.
Awesome.
Yeah. I was going to say that an interesting thing that we do, which helps with the idea of being maybe judgmental or whatever, and where you know, put your efforts. We keep like a bunch of $5 bills in the visor of your car, you know, and so we're driving around town, and there's always places where, you know, there's always people, homeless guys, and they're almost always guys sitting there. And I find, so you drive up to the stop, or you're driving out of Oliver's or whatever, and there's somebody there with a sign. And what at least I do is you make it a practice, you give them the $5. I don't care, you know, if it looks like they're going to go off and get drugs or get drunk or whatever. Don't make any judgment. Just give them the $5. And I find that's really sort of an interesting way to handle things and reinforce not being judgmental. And that's kind of a Buddhist, you know, the path. So
Thank you for that.
Totally agree with you.
That's
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely.
Really cool.
And you know, it doesn't mean that, as Marie said, of course we need to, of course, work to as an organization politically and so on to remedy homelessness. But this person right now, you know, you give him $5, and then at least for a few moments, this person will have some sort of freedom, some sort of something that he can do, and it's really important. Yes.
That's interesting.
And I like what you said about do it right now, because I'm sure many of you think, you know, you get these pleas where they're saying, you know, donate some money for this, and, you know, then we'll feed the hungry or whatever. And you see all these people out there, and they're, you know, standing in the floods or whatever. And it's like, they don't need that help 6 weeks from now. They need that help tonight, this afternoon. And I think that's really something. I'm sure other people have thought about that, but, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Edmee, thank you for your talk. I think it's really important to, remain with a good attitude, optimistic, healthy, and, looking at the half of the cup that's full. I know there's a monthly magazine, the Gazette in Sonoma County, and the theme was the new normal. Many of these things that you've mentioned. And Linda Hopkins had a really good article, I thought, just that, hey, this is, whatever this is, this is what we have, and we need to work with it. And it doesn't serve us to be negative. Another thing that came up for me is the 80-20 rule, which is sort of it's like a business rule that 80% of the results come from 20% of your effort. And so it's really important, I think, to be wise and smart and look at, what does that mean and what could I do in my own community? Anyway, thank you.
So you mean the 80% and 20%? That's in the business sense, that you mean the 20% of your effort and 80% is the result? Is that what you said?
Yeah, in other words, the 20% of your effort often brings 80% of the results. So it's not about working yourself to the grain, because then you're tired and you're frustrated and you can't do anything. But it's about being wise and smart about what we're doing with our time, which is a very precious commodity, obviously. Our time and our energy and our money, what have you, and even as far as who we donate to, obviously there are some organizations that have high administrative costs and others where a lot actually goes to the people. And I know I used to be really judgmental about homeless people. Oh, they're this and they're that. And then I spoke to a few of them and realized that they're just people like you and I, and they've had usually had a rough break or health challenges or mental health, whatever. And so I've decided to give whoever approaches me without deciding, well, you're deserving or you're not.
Yes. And it's not totally related to to the conversation, but I hope that in terms of healthcare decision, we are going to realize that we first have to house people and then treat their mental health or their addiction, which they are doing in Canada, for instance, because this other way doesn't work.
Housing first.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. They are doing that in other countries, and if we talk about that, we can just give you a little example of, I work in the medical field, and at some point we have grant to provide temporary residential housing in a hotel in Santa Rosa. And we saw the anxiety level of patients just declining from, let's say, 80% to 20%. Now, of course, right? You realize that, of course, if you don't have a house, how can you take your medication? How can you take care of yourself? It's impossible, right? So, to really try to look at the whole picture. And yes, realize that people who are homeless had a very, very, very difficult life. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Any more last minute comments? I think it's probably time to move on. Go ahead, Michael.
Four great Bodhisattva vows. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are infinite. I vow to enter them. The Buddha way is boundless. I vow to realize it.